Hi guys. So in this video we are going to discuss about the GOAT debate. If you have seen my previous video, you already know where I have covered all the different factors that count in the GOAT debate. I agree that some of you commented that the fan following as well as the visual style of play does not matter in the GOAT debate. I agree with that, but I just wanted to cover all the factors possible and we know that right now Nadal and Djokovic are pretty close in the GOAT debate, but let's see what happens in the next few years. In this video, what I've done is I've tried to pick up some of the statistics. Now, I have mentioned hidden because these statistics are there, but mostly people do not either know these statistics or they do not pay that much attention to these statistics. Now, these are all the head-to-head statistics, okay, and we know that Djokovic currently leads Federer and Nadal head to head, not by much, but the fact is, yes, he leads them. And in this video, we'll see how that stat has changed over the years and what are the different surfaces where they have played and the statistics have changed. And also, we'll give a few examples on the big points because if you see over the years, the court surfaces have changed. The racket technology has, become more and more evident. We have seen the amount of spin that people can get through their racket, and also the playing conditions have changed. So that has definitely affected when we see the previous matches, especially at Wimbledon in 2001 or maybe before that. We see a lot of serve and volleying, which is not evident right now in tennis because the surfaces have changed and the playing style of players, because of their racket strings, they are able to return much more easily. They are able to impart much more spin on the ball, and even the other surfaces, for example Australian Open, that also changed in 2008, and now it's a much slower surface than it used to be. So all these factors have also caused some of the changes in the results as well. So we'll try to cover all these topics and let's get started. So we'll start off with of the interesting facts. Now, the first stat that we have is that Djokovic leads Federer head to head 4 love in 5 setters and also 4 love in the deciding set tiebreakers. Now, what it means is I think they have played only 4 times in 5 set matches. Two of them are in Wimbledon in 2014. That was a very epic match where it looked like Djokovic would win in 4 sets, but then he also served for the match for the championship. But then Federer came back, and in the fifth set, Djokovic was still able to win, and he won the Wimbledon in 2014. Similarly, in 2019, Federer had match points there. It was a five-setter. We all know that what happened in that match. Then we have a couple of matches at the US Open in 2010 and 2011. Now, the interesting fact here is that Federer, in three of the five match or the four matches, had match points and multiple match points. So what it means is that in terms of crunch time tennis, Djokovic is a mental giant, and we know that this is Federer's one of the weakness, that he is not able to play his best tennis against Djokovic and Nadal on big points, and this is evident by this stat because five setters, you would assume that Federer being considered the GOAT, he would be able to win at least one of them, having multiple match points. But that has been a problem for Federer to close out these matches, and even the same in the deciding set tiebreakers, where he may have been ahead in the tiebreaker, but then somehow he lets Djokovic or Nadal come back into the match, and of course Djokovic and Nadal don't miss too much on big points. Then the next stat is post 2010, and 2010 is the period, if you guys know, that Djokovic had changes in his diet. He was struggling with a lot of injuries. He had the nose injury as well, where he had difficulty breathing. So he got rid of all that. He changed his diet. He was physically well off after 2010. And in the end of 2010, I think he mentioned that one of the Davis Cup victories where he fought really hard and was able to win that match, that really opened up the gates for him. That really helped him increase his confidence, and he started making changes to his whole routine regime just to come back into the top groove. And that is why if you see post out 2010, head to head for Djokovic and Federer in Grand Slams is 9-2. That means Djokovic has won majority of the matches after 2010 against Federer, and the same is with Nadal as well. Djokovic has had more success against Nadal after 2010. We all know what happened in 2011, where Djokovic was almost unbeatable. Only Federer was able to beat him once in the French Open in the Grand Slam, and also was very close to beating him at the US Open. But then, of course, Djokovic came back in the US Open, saved the match points, and then was able to beat Nadal in the final and win the championship as well. And Djokovic leads 3-1 on grass courts against Federer. Now, this is an interesting stat because one would feel that grass is Federer's favorite surface. So Federer should be ahead in that, but that's not true. Djokovic actually leads 3-1 uh, Federer on the grass courts, and his victories have been, of course, in the Wimbledon. The only thing that we need to consider is all those victories mostly have come after 2010. Now, one might argue that even though Federer was in his prime before 2010, but then Djokovic was a newcomer and he was facing all sorts of issues with injuries and all. So we cannot say that, because Federer was not in his prime, that is why Djokovic was able to beat him on grass. No, that's not true. The fact is, Federer did play well. He was able to beat the other guys, but Djokovic was able to beat him on his favorite surface. So that is a fact that we need to accept. Then the deciding sets, 14-3 to Djokovic. Again, we have already discussed that Djokovic is a mental giant, and on a deciding set he rarely loses the match. Now Federer leads 5-1 in the matches during his prime from 2004 to 2007, and this is the point that I was mentioning, that Djokovic was a newcomer at that time, so we cannot compare that Djokovic against Federer. And of course, Federer was in his prime, he was beating everybody, and he obviously led 5-1. But the thing is, even the match that Federer lost, the one match that is shown in the statistic was the 2007 Montreal final. And in that match also, we'll see a few examples of that match in this video. Uh, Federer had like 6 set points in the first set, and he was serving for the set, but he did not make it. He made a lot of unforced errors, 5 to 6 unforced errors in a single game, and he lost that set. Even though he came back to win the second set, but the third set tiebreak was completely dead. Federer was not able to play his best tennis, and that is why Djokovic won. Now that was the first sign, because Federer was still in his prime in 2007, mind you. So it showed that even in his prime, if you can bring him to a tiebreak, if you can play a close match with him, and if you are good from the back of the court, you will always have chances. And the most important thing that Djokovic has was his return of serve. So Federer, with all the other guys, he was able to serve out during trouble. Even with Nadal, Federer can serve and make his way out of those close games. But that doesn't work against Djokovic, because Djokovic is such a good returner. Federer has to really carefully choose where he serves, and we have seen him make a lot of mistakes when serving on big points. If he goes to Djokovic's forehand, especially on the deuce court, then it is very, very clear that Federer has to hit a absolute accurate serve. If he just misses it by a margin, Djokovic's return, we have seen in US Open 2011, that serve, I mean, people keep on praising Djokovic for that return, but I would still say that yes, of course, Djokovic hit a tremendous return, but Federer's serve was not his best serve, even though it was a first serve, but it was not close to the line. And that is the problem with that deuce forehand serve that Federer hits. If it's not accurate, then that's a problem. Now against Nadal, it can work because it goes to Nadal's backhand. So even if it is not accurate, he can get away with it, but not against Djokovic. So he has to carefully choose where he needs to serve on big points. I would still recommend going always to Djokovic's backhand, because at least it gives Federer a chance to hit a forehand on the second shot and be control of the point. And of course, Djokovic hits a great return on the backhand as well, but still Federer gets a forehand. Now that's a trade-off that Federer needs to make, whether he wants to hit a winner or maybe lose the point, or does he want to have the forehand as the second shot and make the point in his control completely. And we'll see a few examples of that also in this video. So let's go ahead. Now, if you talk about Federer and Nadal, now Federer and Nadal are tied up at 3-3 in the 5 set matches. They have had a share of 6 5 set matches in total, and it all started in the Miami in 2005, where Federer was able to come back against Nadal from 2 sets to love down. Amazing match. Nadal had so many chances to win that match, but of course Federer was confident at that time, even though he was not playing his best tennis, but he was in his prime, and because he hadn't lost to Nadal that much, he had that confidence, he had that aura that he could make a comeback, and so he did, and he won that match. Then we had five setters in Wimbledon 2007, we had in 2008, we also had 2006 Rome final where Federer had multiple match points, but Nadal was able to win that match. Then we had the Australian Open 2009. Again, the fifth set was a complete giveaway from Federer because he made a lot of unforced errors. Now, whole credit to Nadal there because Nadal had played a very, very grueling semi-final match against Verdasco, which lasted almost 5 hours, and Nadal was really tired. He didn't have that much rest, so he tried to play aggressive against Federer in the final at the Australian Open, and that helped him actually because Federer, if you don't play that aggressive against Federer, he can obviously beat you on a hard court. But Nadal played aggressive and he saved a lot of break points in the third set. It was love 40 and he was able to save his way out of it. And then Federer in the final set was completely under pressure because he was going for his 14th. And even though he played a good fourth set, but in the fifth set, Federer made a lot of unforced errors. He was just spraying the ball all around, and Nadal basically just had to keep the ball in the court. And in the end, Nadal was able to win his first Australian Open title and also stop Federer from getting his 14th Grand Slam title. And then we had the 2017 famous Australian Open where Federer was able to finally beat Nadal after a decade in a Grand Slam, and he was able to beat it in style using his backhand to good effect, playing really aggressive. That was a very good match. And then, of course, Nadal leads Federer by 6-love at French Open. Yes, that's a fact. Federer has never been able to beat Nadal at the French Open in 6 attempts over the years. And Nadal also leads Federer 8-6 in Federer's prime. And this is an interesting fact, but the point is, most of the times during the Federer's prime, the matches against Nadal were played on clay. So obviously Nadal had the edge there, but still, if you are in your prime, then Federer might have picked up 1 or 2 victories, but he was not able to do so till 2007. It was in 2007 Hamburg where Federer first was able to beat Nadal, and it was a third set whitewash from Federer. It was 6-love, and Nadal was actually tired in that match because before that match, I think he had a very interesting semi-final match against Djokovic, I think, but still he had the first set he was winning, but Federer made a comeback and won that match. So a big, huge victory in that match, and people were started, people started talking that maybe 2007 is the year where Federer would actually beat Nadal at the French Open. It was a good match, but again, Nadal was able to come back in the end. Now, Federer leads Nadal 3-2 on hard courts between 2004-2007. Now, that's obvious. Federer was in his prime. Hard court is one of his favorite surfaces, but still, the point is, still Federer leads Nadal only 3-2. That means Nadal was still able to get 2 victories on hard courts, even in Federer's prime. Now, one of them was, of course, in Miami 2004, which was the first ever match that Federer and Nadal played, and Nadal was able to beat Federer in straight sets. And then in 2006 Dubai final, that I think is a victory that stands out for me because Federer was playing really well. He had an improved backhand that year, his best backhand till date. It was a hard court. Federer used to practice a lot in Dubai, so the court he was familiar with, and still he was not able to beat Nadal, although he had a lot of chances. I think he won the first set, but then Nadal made a comeback, and in the third set also he had chances, but Nadal was just able to get the victory somehow. And that is, for me, I think was another proof that in big points, in big matches, in close matches, it's Nadal who leads Federer because he has that mental edge. Now Federer leads 6-1 post 2014. Now that is the change, and I think even though Federer says that it's because of the bigger racket head and whatever changes that he has made in the racket and not played Nadal at the clay. Yes, of course, I think one of those points that he makes that he hasn't played Nadal a lot on clay post 2014, that has helped him because obviously we know that Federer's mindset is the key to his victories. Now he knows that if he plays Nadal every year on clay, then it definitely leads an impact on Federer's head that he loses every time against Nadal, and it affects his performance on the other surfaces as well. So not having played since 2014 on clay definitely helped Federer erase those memories, those bad memories, and he came up fresh in 2017. Nadal was also coming back after an injury. Federer was also coming back after an injury. It was like a new start, and that is where I think Federer, had that edge because that mental thing was not there. And the second advantage was his backhand. Now, yes, he might say, and it might have impacted bigger racket head might have impacted his backhand, but I think it was more of the mindset that he was able to attack from the backhand, uh, whether it was cross court or backhand. On both ends, Federer was playing freely, and that is what has helped him. And he has now understood how to play Nadal. He knows that he has to serve big and go big on big points, whether it is forehand or backhand. He has to play big and he has to win the match against Nadal rather than hoping for Nadal to miss, because that just doesn't happen whether it is Nadal or Djokovic. And that is why he has been able to beat Nadal 6 times in the last 7 years, and his only loss coming at the 2019 French Open, which was again the only match they played on clay after 2014. So definitely now Federer knows how to play Nadal, but now had he learned his lesson in 2010, I think we would have seen more victories from Federer, especially on the hard courts and the Grand Slams where it was not clay. So, and just another stat is 2013, we all know, was the Federer's worst year in terms of results. He was out in the Wimbledon first round. He was struggling with injuries with his back, and also his form was not good. He was beaten by Robredo at the US Open. I think it was fourth round, and he was just struggling to win any of the matches. But I think in 2014 he made a good comeback, and post that his performance has been steady. Although he has not been able to beat Djokovic in the Grand Slams, but still his performance has been good overall. Now let's see some of the hidden statistics of Djokovic and Nadal. So Nadal leads Djokovic 2-1 at the US Open hard courts. Now this is an interesting stats because one would think that hard court is Djokovic's best surface. So Djokovic should be dominating on that surface, but that's not true. Especially at US Open, Nadal has been able to beat Djokovic twice, once in 2010 and once in 2013. Now in 2013, Djokovic had three break points at love 40 in the third set. Nadal was able to make a comeback. So I would not say that those matches have been easy for Nadal, but yet he has been able to get the victory because of his mental strength. And that is where I think Nadal leads Djokovic in terms of the mental strength, because in their head to head matches, I think there were a lot of chances where Djokovic could have won the match, and he was playing better, I would say, against Nadal. And on his least preferred surface or the less preferred surface, I'm talking about Nadal, but still Nadal was able to get the victory, and that is only and only due to his mental strength and playing the big points perfectly. Now, Djokovic, of course, is a mental giant. We have seen that in the recent French Open, the way he came back. But I still think Nadal is better in terms of the mental ability than Djokovic, because head to head, Nadal has been able to get more victories, in the tough matches against Djokovic. Now, both are tied 2-2 on grass, and I think the matches that Nadal has been able to win against Djokovic on grass were fairly earlier in their career, and I think one of them was in the 2007 Wimbledon where Djokovic retired mid-match. He won one set against Nadal. It was, I think, one set all. In the third set, it was maybe Nadal was up with a break, but then he had to retire. And one other was in the warm-up tournament. I think it was Queens, where again it was a three-setter, and I think Nadal was able to win that match. It was a final as well. So those were the two matches that Nadal had won, and after that, it has been Wimbledon 2011 and then Wimbledon 2018. I think those two matches uh, Djokovic has been able to win. Now Nadal leads 7-2 at the French Open, so we all know Nadal has won 13 French Open titles, and he is just impossible to beat on clay. But still, Djokovic is the only man who has been able to beat Nadal twice at the French Open, and Nadal has never been able to beat Djokovic at the Australian Open. Now they have only played twice, but Nadal has not been able to beat Djokovic in those two matches. Although the 2012 match was one of the best matches that we have ever seen, where Nadal actually led with a break in the fifth set. It was 4-2, but then Djokovic made a comeback, and then he was able to win the match. Now Nadal was 5-0 up against Djokovic at Grand Slams till 2010, because Djokovic was a newcomer and Nadal was also a newcomer, but he had won a Grand Slam already in 2005 French Open, and post that Nadal's confidence was growing and he was 5-0 up against Djokovic till 2007, till 2010. But after 2010, Djokovic leads 23-12, so he has won more than 45% of the matches against Nadal. And Nadal still leads 10-6 on clay post 2010, but still I think the difference is quite less. So Nadal has won more than again 40 to 50% of the matches, but it's still a stat that Djokovic can be proud of because he has been able to beat Nadal like 50% of the times after 2010 on clay, which is Nadal's favorite surface. Now Nadal has defeated Djokovic only twice on the surfaces that are not clay after 2010. So that shows you the dominance of Djokovic. He has been able to beat Nadal 15 times in the last 11 years, and Nadal has only been able to get two victories. So definitely Djokovic, we can see the trend here that after 2010, uh, the trend is completely in favor of Djokovic. He's been able to dominate both Federer and Nadal. Federer, of course, we know was above 30 after 2010, but then I think Nadal and Djokovic only have 1 year difference. So that just shows you how Djokovic has been dominant in the previous 10 years. Now the Grand Slam distribution till 2010, we all know that Federer has had won most of his Grand Slam titles. He had won 16 Grand Slam titles. In Australian Open 2010, he won his 16th title. Nadal had won only 9, and Djokovic had won only 1. Djokovic was just starting his prime in 2011, and post 2010, you can see Federer has won only 4 in the last 10 years. I would say 11 years, Nadal has been able to win 11. So Nadal's winning rate has been continuous. He has been able to perform well at least at the French Open, and if not on the other slams. And Djokovic has interestingly won 18 slams after 2010. So most of his slams have come in the last 11 years. Now Djokovic is also above 30 right now, and in the last 4 years, which is you can see the other stat, which is age greater than 30, Djokovic has been able to still win 6 Grand Slams. So I think he's performing really well after the age of 30. Federer and Nadal have also performed well, but I think Djokovic is better right now in that category, and he still has some time to get ahead of Federer and Nadal. And if you see age less than 30, again Federer and Nadal are tired, and Djokovic I think has won a little bit less than Federer and Nadal. But that just shows you that in the last 15 to 20 years, I think these guys have dominated the sport completely, and it's really hard for anybody else in the group, no matter how well they play, to beat these three guys, because again, to win a Grand Slam you need to beat at least two of these three guys to win the title, and that is almost impossible. Now let's see a few examples of the big points that I was talking about. Now this is the US Open final, semi-final in 2011. Federer, it's a fifth set. We all know it's 40-15, 5-3, and we'll see that return from Djokovic. But we also see how Federer, misses the points and makes unforced errors on big points. So let's just start this video. And you can see Djokovic, I mean, the whole crowd is against Djokovic, but still, if you see Federer, he doesn't look that confident. It looks like he's still, hoping that Djokovic loses. Now, you see this serve. Now, it's a first serve, but if you see this serve, it's not really close to the mark, and you can see Djokovic laughing. So, this is what I like about Djokovic, the attitude. I mean, even if he's losing, even if the crowd is against him, he's still laughing. And you can see Federer, it does have an impact on the opponent when the opponent sees that even if he's winning, he doesn't see that face of loss, or maybe the face of disappointment on the opponent, that is Djokovic. Djokovic is still laughing, so that definitely makes an impact. And you can see here Federer losing his touch and making a double fault there, and even Federer admitted in his press conference that the return that Djokovic made completely made changes in the mindset of Federer, and he was like, how can Djokovic make such a return on 40-15, being 40-15 down on such a stage of the match. And although Federer tried to justify this, saying that he believes more in construction of the points rather than going for a snap and trying to just finish the point early. But whatever it is, the fact is that Djokovic was able to produce such a huge winner on a big point, and Federer's serve, although was good, but it was not the best serve. That is why I feel that Federer should always go to Djokovic's backhand on big points, so that he can at least get a forehand to hit on the second point, and then he can control the point from then on. Now this is another example, and this you can see is the ATP World Tour Finals, and it's 5-4. Federer was serving for the second set, but it's breakpoint Djokovic, and you can see what happens now. Now again a forehand, serve to the forehand. Now let's see what Federer does. He's trying to rally. Now this is the pattern of play that Federer likes. He tries to hit a inside out forehand so that it goes to the lower part of the net. It's easier to hit. But then the problem is he gives a too much open court, and you can see Djokovic changing the direction, and then it brings off the error from Federer. So that is the problem, I think. Now again it's 30 all. It's Federer serving, and you can see it's another big point, and Federer makes a backhand error. So big points usually are difficult for Federer to play, especially against Djokovic and Nadal. In this example, now we go to the Montreal final, and as I was mentioning that Federer had 6 set points in this final. In the first set, you can see the score line at 6-5, 40 love. Federer is serving for the set. Now, who would believe that Federer would lose a set from this point when he was in his prime, in 2007? But let's see what happens. Good serve on backhand, but then a miss on the forehand from Federer, maybe trying to play too early, trying to go too big. Another set point, another forehand serve, and another unforced error on the backhand side this time. Now the third set point for Federer. Let's see what happens. And again Federer misses a forehand, and you can see there will be another break point here, and a good ace from Federer. So Federer's serve, if it was working, it usually took him out of the trouble. But then if Djokovic was able to return, then obviously there were problems even when Federer was in his prime. So two good serves, and Federer has 6-5 and the advantage. And again Djokovic goes for a winner. So this is the attitude that I like about Djokovic. He was not afraid to go big even on big points against Federer. Second deuce. Now great point here. Now very good lob from Djokovic, so it was not easy for Federer to hit the smash. And again now Djokovic tries to stay in the rally. Federer is trying to take as much points on his forehand, but now Djokovic is forcing to hit his backhand, and then again Federer misses a backhand. So many errors coming from the Federer's forehand and backhand wings, and this really caused an issue for Federer. Now Federer is trying to bring Djokovic forward, but Djokovic is a good player, and you can see how deep he hits. So another miss from Federer. This was right on the baseline. So you can see the difference that I'm trying to point out to is that Federer, uh, you know, although he was in his prime, but he was missing a lot of shots in this final. Whereas Djokovic, even though he was not, he was just a newcomer at that time, but he was still not afraid to go for big points. And it's quite similar the trend. If you see Federer of 2004, where Federer was coming as a new player, he was playing these sort of big points really well against Agassi or Henman or Andy Roddick. But then in 2007, because everybody expected Federer to win, so he was under pressure, and Djokovic was the newcomer. Similarly Nadal was the newcomer, and both were able to take advantage of this lack of what we can say, lack of confidence maybe on big points, or unusual errors maybe from Federer. But I think these are some of the points which might have helped Djokovic and Nadal to get the mental confidence and strength against Federer. Now here we'll see Nadal's big points. So you can see it's the Australian Open 2009 final. It's the third set. It's love 30 against Federer, and you can see that Nadal is serving, and you will see this point. Nadal will miss a forehand, and it will be love 40. So 3 break points to Federer. But then how Nadal responds, that I would just like you all to see. So good serve by Nadal, a body serve. Now Federer is trying to rally, backhand to Nadal's forehand. Nadal trying to pepper Federer's backhand as always, but he misses a forehand. Now it's love 40 now. So 3 break points from for Federer, but let's see what Nadal does. Normal serve, not a best serve. Good shot by Federer there, but Nadal goes back behind him with a great backhand. Another good serve from Nadal, short return from Federer, and great forehand from Nadal, and another winner. So you can see on big points, Nadal and Djokovic usually try to hit the winners, and they are the ones in the ascendancy. So they are not afraid, even though Nadal missed a forehand and it got to love 40, but still he continued to have belief in himself and try to hit the winner. That is what is more important. And Federer used to do that in till 2007, but post that, once he started losing, he started playing more defensively, and that actually played in favor of Nadal and Djokovic, because these guys don't miss from the back of the court, and they are also not afraid to take the ascendancy and take the aggression on big points if it is required. Now, another example of Nadal's big point play. This is the Australian Open 2012, the famous one. You can see it's the fourth set. It's triple break point for Djokovic. He is just 2 games away from the championship, and you can see how Nadal responds. So good serve, good return from Djokovic, deep return, and the point is going on now. It's rally time. Djokovic is trying to pepper Nadal's backhand. Nadal is using the slice, trying to move Djokovic around. And again another slice. Nadal is trying to get to his forehand. Now he's got to his forehand. Now he'll pull the trigger, another forehand, and now it's a winner. So what a great point from Nadal, being in such pressure. And it's another break point now. Another good return from Djokovic, I would say. And again slice, and now Nadal will go back behind Djokovic, and Djokovic is not able to change the direction. So this shows you how Nadal is mentally tough on big points, and there are numerous examples. I just picked one of them, you can see. So let's go for the next example. Now this is Federer's point pattern that I would like to show you. So over the years, what we have seen is whenever Federer is in trouble, whenever he is facing break point, he of course tries to use his forehand as much as possible. And even on the forehand, he usually tries to hit the inside out forehand. Now there are reasons for this. There are two obvious reasons. One is Federer trusts his forehand more than any other shot. Of course, his serve is the first shot, but then it is his forehand. So Federer trusts his forehand. And the second point is he wants to go inside out. Now, why does he want to go inside out? There is a reason for that. The reason is he has to go towards the lower part of the net. So you can see, we all know that in the middle of the court, the net height is a little bit lower than towards the side. So it's a bit easier to go to the lower part of the net. Of course, Federer doesn't have to go for the lines. So that's also another advantage. So the easiest and most safe shot for Federer, where he can actually control the point from, would be this shot in this picture, that Federer is trying to hit an inside out forehand, and you can see it's going over the lower part of the net, so it's relatively safer. Secondly, he's able to control it because it is his forehand, and he doesn't need to hit a line. He can just place it nicely with a lot of spin, and it will force Djokovic to go towards his backhand and try to defend that shot from there, and it will give Federer the open court, and then again it will allow Federer to use another forehand to complete the point. And this is what I think has been his pattern over the years. On big points, he usually tries to take the ball on his forehand, and he tries to get into a rally where he could consistently hit that inside out forehand and force slowly he could force the opponent outside the sidelines on their backhand side, so that Federer can use the open court. And this is what I think has been his pattern. But if you compare this pattern to Nadal and Djokovic's pattern, I think it's completely different. Yes, Nadal also tries to take the ball in his forehand, but he doesn't have a set pattern. He's able to also use the other shots on the other angles of the court, and he's not afraid to go to maybe his forehand down the line or backhand down the line. And same goes for Djokovic. We all know that Djokovic's backhand down the line is probably the shot that he doesn't go that much on big points, because that is the shot that requires a lot of confidence from him. But if you will see that his matches against Federer and Nadal, he does go and he does hit that shot. That just shows that he knows that he has to play his best tennis on big points if he has to win the point. Now again, Federer serve to the backhand. So here we'll see the example. That's what I'm showing here. So it's the second set in the Australian Open 2008, and Federer, if he serves on the backhand to Djokovic, it really helps him to, get ascendancy in the point. Now here we'll see that Djokovic will actually win the point, but the thing that I'm trying to prove here is that if Federer is able to serve to Djokovic's backhand, then he at least gets to hit a forehand on the second shot on the return, and that is what Federer should try to get to his forehand on the second shot. So we'll see that happen in this point. So you can see Federer is able to hit the forehand. Now, even though Djokovic is playing really well in this set and he'll be able to hit the winner, he's not afraid. Federer is struggling physically. He's fatigued, and Djokovic is hitting so well. You can see the shot. That's just a rocket. You cannot do anything against that shot. So, but the point here was around Federer's serve to the backhand. So let's move on. Now here is another example. There are three screenshots here. Let's go with the leftmost one. You can see here that Federer tries to serve to Djokovic's backhand, and you can see Djokovic how hard he has to, he has problems getting to the ball, and then he returns, but still he is able to return the ball deep, as you can see, in the last screenshot here. You can see that the return is so deep, but still it gives Federer the chance to hit his forehand. Now it's up to Federer whether he hits his forehand well on the along the green lines that I have shown in this example. Though in this point, in reality, Federer was not able to hit a winner. You can see the red line. Federer sprayed this ball outside the sidelines, and he was not able to capitalize, and he let away those two set points that you can see in the score line. But the point is, again, if you serve to Djokovic's backhand, at least Federer gets the chance to hit his forehand on the second shot. This is another example. Now it's 2-all in the Wimbledon 2000 and I think it's 2014, and you can see that Federer has served to Djokovic's backhand, and how hard it is for Djokovic to return. You can see, and still Djokovic returns well, but it's not a winner. And Federer, although doesn't get a chance to hit a forehand, but he gets an easy shot on his backhand, relatively easy. So again, the point I'm trying to make is go to Djokovic's backhand on important points. Now here in this point, we are going to see the Djokovic's big point play. So you can see the score line is the first set tiebreaker in the Wimbledon 2019. It's 5-all. Djokovic is serving. Now this is a very important point. Federer is trying to bring Djokovic in to the net by using his slice. But you can see now Djokovic, what options does he have? Now he knows that he's well inside the court, so he has to hit a really good shot. Otherwise, Federer can use the open court. So what can he do now? If he hits the shot along the red line, Federer will attack in the open court. If he hits the shot in the yellow line and come forward, then again it has less distance for Federer to travel, and Federer can use his backhand to hit a passing shot. So what is the difficult shot for Djokovic right now? The less percentage shot is to go down the line with the backhand over the higher part of the net. Still Djokovic will choose that shot because he knows that he has to play his best tennis. He has to hit a good shot to win against Federer. And you will see actually in this point that Djokovic did hit along the green line, and Federer was not able to pass him because Federer, you can see, had more distance to travel to get to the ball, and Djokovic was able to win this point and also the set. Now, in this point, we'll see Djokovic's big point play again. Now it is a fifth set, 4-all. Djokovic is serving to stay in the match, in the set, and it's not actually that, but yeah, it's a close game. It's advantage to Djokovic. It's Wimbledon 2018. And you can see how Djokovic plays against Nadal. He knows that he has to play well to win the point. He is not hoping for Nadal to miss. And you will see Djokovic use his backhand down the line and again a backhand cross court. Two absolutely brilliant shots to keep him in the game. Let's see. So a good return from Nadal, pretty deep, and you can see Djokovic using his backhand down the line, and again a very aggressive cross-court backhand right near the lines. So this is how you have to play. This is how well you have to play, on big points if you have to win against the likes of Nadal or Djokovic. Now let's get to the conclusion. So what we have discussed mostly is that the matches between the big three post 2007 have been more around how the big points are played, because we know that there have been changes in the court surfaces. The surfaces have slowed down, the racket technology has improved, so players are able to control the ball better, and that same applies to Federer as well. So I'm not trying to defend Federer in any way, but the thing is, post 2007 there have been more rallies, there have been more point construction, and if you see, I think it's the player who plays the big points really well is able to win most of the matches, and those players are Djokovic and Nadal and not Federer. Because of that, Federer has lost a lot of points due to that weakness, and you can see the results. The results speak for themselves. Now, Nadal and Djokovic, as we all know, have been the mental giants throughout their career. Even from the beginning, Djokovic might not be that mentally strong. Maybe in the initial part of the career, he might have lost a lot of matches to Nadal and Federer. But Nadal, from the beginning, has never lost matches due to his mental, weaknesses. Because even if you see 2005 French Open, I mean, Federer was number one player in the world, and he was playing well. It was not like Federer was not playing well on clay. But still Nadal was able to come back into that match, and the way he started that match, the first point in the French Open 2000 semi-final, you would see he hit an amazing pass against Federer on the forehand side. So this is what shows, from the beginning, and on the set points in the third set in the French Open 2005, you can see Nadal, he's not afraid to play big on big points, and usually he comes out on top. So that has been definitely a point that Nadal has throughout his career, and Djokovic also has that during the latter end of his career. And right now I think Djokovic is right up there with Nadal in terms of the mental abilities. Now we discussed post 2010 that Djokovic has dominated both Federer and Nadal and won most of the matches played against them. The main issue for Federer against Djokovic is Djokovic's return of serve. That is quite evident, and this is why you have seen Federer lose most of the matches against Djokovic post 2010, because the return of serve of Djokovic is so good. Federer has to rely on his shot making ability, on his back of the court baseline rallies to win against Djokovic, and we all know that Djokovic is the best in that category from the baseline. So that is why he has been able to win most of the matches. Now the advantage that Federer has in his serve is evident against Nadal, because Nadal doesn't have that good a return like Djokovic. So Federer still has been able to win a lot of cheap points on big occasions against Nadal, but same has not been possible against Djokovic, because Djokovic, the return of serve is so good, and that is the main difference between Nadal and Djokovic in terms of Federer being able to win against them. So this is the conclusion, guys. I hope you like this video. This is just the stats. I've tried to analyze more, and I think and also I want to thank you all for your comments on my previous video on the GOAT debate. I still think that Nadal is leading the GOAT debate right now, but Djokovic is not far behind. If you see these statistics, you will say that Djokovic is a bit better than Nadal and Federer in terms of the matches won and all the results combined after 2010 specifically, because Djokovic has been in his prime after that period. So yes, I completely agree with that, but I still feel Djokovic has a little more to go. Maybe this year, if he wins another Grand Slam, I think Wimbledon is most likely that he should win this year. If he wins that Grand Slam, or if he wins one or two in the this year or next year, I think Djokovic will undoubtedly be the GOAT, the greatest of all time, because then he'll have more number of Grand Slam titles as well. And with Federer and Nadal still active on the surface, still Nadal still playing well, in all the surfaces, I think there would be very it will be very hard to argue against Djokovic being the GOAT. once Djokovic gets the Grand Slam tally about 20 or till 20. So let's see what happens, and thank you guys for watching this video.